So I just finished watching Black Panther and I thought it was okay. Certainly better than most Marvel introductory films, but certainly nothing really too special in my opinion. Tonally, this film is very similar to other Marvel movies, blending comedy with action and fantasy elements. However, some of the jokes don't really land in this one. At least for me anyways. The audience that I was in seemed to be loving the humor of this film, but the humor didn't really land for me. Especially the usage of a really outdated and really unfunny meme. But some of the jokes do land, and this is a very enjoyable and fun film to watch. Something I really gotta give it praise for is its different soundtrack and color scheme and art style. I love the more tribal aspects of the soundtrack, and mixing it up with trap music really benefited this film in giving it a unique sound. On paper, that sounds awful and really unenjoyable, but I thought that they killed it and they did a really good job with the soundtrack. This movie is also very vibrant and colorful, even more so than Guardians and Thor Ragnarok. The costumes are all really unique, and this is a very pretty and artistic looking Marvel film. This is the best looking Marvel movie when it comes to design and art style, and you can especially feel the Wakanda culture in these environments and in these costumes. It was beautiful to look at too. The film's colors were really nice looking, so I feel like the soundtrack and the color scheme and the costume design really elevated this movie for me, honestly. The environments, however, were especially fake looking in my opinion. It was made painfully obvious that they were just in giant green screen rooms. Some of the areas they were in didn't really work for me, and I'll get into that a little bit later, but the CGI feels cheap. The villain, oh my god, fucking hats off to Marvel for finally writing a good villain. They've always struggled with this and giving them a good motivation. That every single Marvel villain is just like, you're different than me, so I'm going to kill you now. This villain actually has a point. You feel like he's right at some points, and that our hero is flawed. And I love that about this movie, that it makes you think about your villain. He's not just some faceless nobody that he's a different color of the hero, and so you have to fight him and hate him. And I felt like they wasted his opportunity just a little bit. We'll get into that a little bit later in the spoiler discussion, but for now, I just really dug Michael B. Jordan as this villain. He was awesome. The lore and story of Wakanda is incredibly interesting and told through great visuals and a captivating history. I really wish that we got more of this stuff, because it was by far the most interesting part of the movie for me, was learning about this backstory of Wakanda. Especially how it was told too, in those interesting little CGI scenes that only happens at the beginning, but I really dug the intro and the history of Wakanda. I feel like the cast does a great job. They're well directed and they show emotion when they need to. There's a certain scene that happens in the film, and I felt like of all the Marvel scenes, including a death of a character, that was the best acted I've seen. And just the design of Black Panther is just so sleek and badass looking, I gotta say. I loved his design in Civil War, and they improved upon it in this movie too. And it's just really cool looking. Now, believe it or not, there are cons to this film. It's not a perfect movie, and in my opinion, this is one of the most flawed Marvel movies at the same time. Some of the fight scenes in this film are pretty poorly edited in my opinion, as well as the overall pacing of the film is really fast and it gets kind of annoying. The film obviously is very predictable. If you've seen any movie with a hero character in it, then you know exactly what's going to happen next. Virtually nothing surprises you. The movie doesn't throw any curveballs your way. It's a very predictable and safe introduction to this universe, which really disappointed me because Marvel changed it up with the soundtrack and the environment. I just really wish they made the story a little more different and unique. Overall, in terms of staying spoiler free, I thought Black Panther was a perfectly fine film, with its flaws of course, but that doesn't stop it from being an entertaining and refreshing change in the MCU that was growing quite stale in the last few years, to be honest. Out of all the films Marvel is pumping out, I was most excited for this one, and I'm glad it lived up to my expectation. I recommend you check it out, and I'm giving it a 7 out of 10. Alrighty, for this portion of the review, I'm not going to go through the entire movie, just pinpointing certain things I liked and disliked, but in more detail. So spoiler warning, 3, 2, 1, go! The beginning of the film showcases a beautifully depicted history of Wakanda. It sums up the lore quite nicely and it grabs your attention from the get-go. This deep and rich history is prevalent throughout the entire film, and I really wanted more. I genuinely think it's the best written backstory I've seen from an MCU film, and I'm excited to see more of it. I don't know how else to say it, but the first 2 fight scenes in this film were just straight up awful. What I mean by that is during these fight scenes, there's so many cuts and so much shaky cam, it starts to look messy and unchoreographed. On top of that, it feels like the punches and slashes have no impact to them. That's because there isn't really any sound effects and the cut is right when the punch or kick is thrown. It's super obvious. Watch EveryFrameaPainting's video on how to do action comedy and you'll see just what I mean. On top of that, there's no blood in these movies, which I understand is for kids, but it just does nothing for me. I feel no tension in these movies. There's literally a scene where a woman gets her fucking throat slit and there's no blood. It's just weird to me that you can show a woman getting her throat cut open, but as soon as you show blood, it's not okay. I don't get it, and it really nerfed a lot of these fights for me. It still seems that no one in the MCU knows how to choreograph fights except for the Russo brothers. It's a shame because I really dug Black Panther's fighting style in Civil War, only to be slightly disappointed with this film's first 2 fights. However, the other action scenes are a little better and are better at hiding the fact that these actors don't actually know how to fight. It's also interesting to me that Ryan Coogler, the director of Black Panther, also directed Creed, which I thought was an excellent boxing movie with one of the coolest one-take boxing scenes I have ever seen. Seriously, you should go check it out if you haven't seen it. I'll leave a link to the scene below. And there wasn't any of that style in this film. The casino scene comes close, but again, it just looks so fake looking thanks to the cheap looking CGI. The fight scenes were really weird in this film, and I wasn't really thrilled or excited or even captivated by any of them, which is unfortunate because, like I said, I really dig Black Panther's style, but it wasn't well executed in this movie. The "what are those" meme was never funny, and it has no place being here in this film. Yes, it seriously bothered me that much that I decided to put it into my review. But I really liked T'Challa's sister, Shuri. She was smart, funny, and really humanized the film, as well as the character of T'Challa, adding a baseline between tradition and progression. It was a really interesting character dynamic, especially considering how traditionalized Wakanda is. She was the one kind of unique flower that made a joke and mockery of everything. It's not that she didn't respect tradition, she just felt like it was unnecessary with how technologically advanced they were. And I really liked that character dynamic. Also, it helps that she wasn't some annoying sidekick that wouldn't shut the hell up, so that's a plus. Hats off to the brand new best MCU villain.
I mean, there was no competition though. I mean, the best villain was probably Loki or something.
Seriously though, Michael B. Jordan kills it as Eric Killmonger. Dumb name, but whatever. He actually has motivation, guys, a reason to hate the hero other than I hate you because you got a thing that I didn't, so fuck you, let's fight. Yeah, sure, that's in the movie, but it isn't the villain's central motivation. He also wins, for fuck's sake. He wins at first and legitimately dethrones T'Challa. I really liked his ending too, in which he turns down T'Challa's request to be healed and imprisoned and he dies with its honor. I really wish he was introduced earlier in the film because in all honesty, I think he steals the show. And I think he's a far more interesting character than even T'Challa. His time, unfortunately, was too short, and it's a shame because honestly, he was the best villain we've had in a long time, and he dies in his introductory film. Speaking of villains, Daniel Kaluuya's character, Wakabi, is strange to me because obviously he's just a coward who switches sides when he sees fit, but Daniel Kaluuya is just too damn charming and likable. It's like Will Smith as Deadshot. You don't see him as a villain at all. The whole movie I was just thinking about how good looking he is and just how much of a likable personality that he is. Strange casting, but I liked him in this film. Oh, the pacing in this movie drove me absolutely fucking nuts. It's really fast and unforgiving that I feel like we've missed out on the subtleties this world has to offer. We spend so little time developing the intricate little towns and villages of Wakanda and instead focus on a tiny throne room and a fake looking arena. They're in Korea for like 10 minutes, but it feels like 10 seconds. This movie just jumps around like crazy, and it literally feels like they skipped the beginning of the third act and just went to the anticlimactic final scene of the film. There was also a car chase scene that I felt was really rushed, but not in a good way, in that it bordered on like Transformers level of what the fuck is going on. and is just really boring and not very intense. It wasn't filmed and edited very well, and I felt like it was really slow, but also poorly paced. I don't know, it was weird. I kinda dug the central theme of holding on to past and outdated traditions will do nothing but hurt us if we don't adapt to the ever-changing world. Throughout the film, there's an apparent clash between tradition and progress, which ultimately found a happy medium by the end. This, along with the idea of unification, went well together and gave us a film with well done social commentary, especially in today's world. By no means do I think that this film should be used as a forefront for unification and, other stuff because it's a dumb Marvel movie, but I felt like the social commentary was well done. I suppose I'll talk about the mid and after credit scenes now. They don't really add much other than Wakanda is going to provide vibranium to the world, and that will come into play when Thanos comes, I'm sure. And the other after credit scenes show Bucky recovering from Civil War in Wakanda, which ties into Captain America's story, and that's pretty much about it. Overall, I enjoyed Black Panther more than I thought I would. It's fun, but not without its flaws. I look forward to seeing this character again in the MCU, and I'd say that this introductory story is one of the best in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Again, I'm giving it a 7.